North Korea defies the world again, attempting to fire a missile, but it fails almost immediately, blowing up on the launch pad. This only a day after the regime rolled out a huge display of tanks, rockets, missiles in a parade through Pyongyang. Meanwhile, Vice President Mike Pence arriving in South Korea this Easter Sunday for the beginning of a 10-day trip throughout Asia. This morning, he told U.S. service members their mission is vital.
This morning's provocation from the North is just the latest reminder of the risks each one of you face every day in the defense of the freedom of the people of South Korea and the defense of America in this part of the world. Your willingness to step forward, to serve, to stand firm without fear inspires our nation and inspires the world.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka is Deputy Assistant to President Trump. Good to see you, Dr. Gorka. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Happy Easter, Maria, and congratulations on your interview with the boss.
Thank you so much. The president in that interview this past week said that we are sending an armada toward the Korean peninsula. What is the goal?
The goal is to reassert American leadership around the world and to reassure our allies, our partners, and our friends that America is back. We are jettisoning this idea of leading from behind, which itself is an oxymoron, and the principle of the Obama administration's national security strategy, which was so-called strategic patience. That means doing nothing and creating vacuums around the world, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in the Middle East, or whether it's in Asia, vacuums that bad people will exploit. That era is gone, and the president is showing leadership.
Well, he's certainly showing that. The era of leading from behind is over. He's saying that very strongly. Let me ask you, Dr. Gorka, there's some conversation happening this morning about what role the U.S. played in that missile failing out of North Korea overnight, because apparently there is some talk that the U.S. could have done something, gone on offense with a cyber attack to cause the North Korean missile to blow up. True?
This is not the Obama White House. We don't give our playbook away. That is very bad strategy. But we have an incredible team, whether it's Secretary Mattis, whether it's H.R. McMaster, whether it's Tom Bossett that is responsible for some of our most amazing cyber work. But we're just not going to tell people what we do. So people need to draw their conclusions, but understand the use of the Moab, the use of the cruise missiles, these things send a clear message, but we're not going to comment whether or not we were involved in anything happening in North Korea. That's not good strategy. I'm sorry.
So having the armada there is just a reminder that the U.S. is ready. It will act if it needs to. You know, North Korea is getting just as tough. A top North Korean official threatening a preemptive strike against the U.S. if his nation believes America is taking what he's calling, quote, reckless military action. Are we ready for that?
I'd like to make one thing very clear, because there's been a lot of misreporting on this. The president is not an interventionist commander-in-chief. Nothing has changed from November the 7th to today. He's been explicit. We're not invading other people's countries. We're not occupying them. This isn't some neoconservative Bush-era administration. Nevertheless, we have obligations to our friends in that region. And on top of that, things like weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons in the hands of rogue regimes, chemical weapons, those will not be countenanced, because they are a threat to Americans as well. And that's why you're seeing the leadership coming out of the White House that you're seeing.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, Dr. Gorka. We recognize that. Let me ask you about the mother of all bombs. This is another incredible story, sir, because the U.S. dropping the most powerful non-nuclear bomb in its arsenal on what is said was an ISIS cave complex in remote Afghanistan. Incredible to see the number of ISIS fighters that were killed as a result of that, and no civilians.
Yeah, this is really the untold story of the last few years, and this is why the action had to be taken. ISIS isn't just something happening in Iraq or Syria. It is stunning that in the last 2 years, we have seen Afghan warlords swear bayat, swear allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the new so-called caliph of the Islamic State. That is a very bad sign. That happened because of the leading from behind, that somebody in South Asia is pledging allegiance to a terrorist group in the Middle East. That's why we had to send this signal. And of course, Maria, a cave complex is very similar to a bunker complex, and as a result, other questions, other conclusions are being drawn by rogue actors.
That weapon was so massive that it had to be dropped from the rear of a cargo plane. I thought it was really interesting that there was a little bit of a nuance to what the president was saying in terms of the U.S.'s approach to foreign policy, right. And that is, he's listening directly to the generals on the ground. This is a change changed strategy? Because I remember during the Obama administration, many of the generals on the ground were upset that they weren't being heard, Dr. Gorka. Is that part of the strategy for the president?
Absolutely. Our great men and women in uniform were shackled for 8 years. We had what I call the 8,000-mile screwdriver. There were people here in D.C. that were making tactical decisions at the lowest level and not allowing our warfighters to do their job. That has changed. We trust our men and women in uniform. The president trusts their leaders, and we're telling them, you have been trained to do a job. We're going to let you do the job. That's leadership. And President Trump knows how to delegate. Look at his business career. Look at what he's doing now. Let the professionals do their job, and that's why morale is skyrocketing in the armed forces right now.
So the mother of all bombs dropped in Afghanistan. You've got an armada headed toward the Korean Peninsula. Listen to what the president told me about that armada when we discussed North Korea earlier this week.
We are sending an armada, very powerful. We have submarines, very powerful, far more powerful than the aircraft carrier, that I can tell you.
What was he trying to say there, Dr. Gorka? I mean, for the longest time, we've been hearing about how our military is so depleted and that we are needing to update, to advance in terms of technology. And here we are looking at some of the weaponry, which is the most sophisticated we've ever heard of.
Yeah, the president is sending a very simple message. This is a man who understands that diplomacy, without force to back it up, is just a bunch of words, just a piece of paper. And that's why he's saying we have the most incredible military the world has ever seen. And that's going to back up what we're saying. It's not just going to be declarative statements. We're replacing divisiveness with decisiveness. That's how you need to interpret the president's words.
Dr. Gorka, it's great to talk with you this morning. Thanks so much for weighing in.